After discovering my husband's affair with my younger sister, I broke down emotionally. Yushan never came between us. From the very beginning, the one I loved was her. You are the third party between Yushan and me. Lu Yuanchao's eyes were bloodshot, his tone cold and harsh, every word biting and precise, crashing heavily onto my heart. My face instantly turned as pale as paper, my whole body trembling as it was engulfed by pain, anger, and humiliation. My voice sharp and desperate as I questioned, I am the third party. Back then, it was you who knelt on the ground begging me to marry you, and now you say you've loved Fang Yushan all along. Then I let out a piercing laugh, and as I laughed, tears streamed down uncontrollably. Seeing my shattered and hopeless state, Lu Yuanchao was jolted awake, falling into a panic. He instinctively reached out to touch me, but then abruptly pulled his hand back, his lips trembling as he struggled to form a complete sentence. Shuyao, I didn't mean it that way. Let me explain. I walked toward the door with hollow eyes, like a soulless zombie recklessly charging through the streets. Suddenly, a beam of light pierced toward me. In the moment I was hit by the truck, I thought, this is still less painful than the ache in my heart. The smell of disinfectant filled my nostrils. I snapped my eyes open, staring at the glaring sunlight streaming through the gaps in the curtains. Miss Fong, you're fine now, just a bit weak. You need to get more nutrition, the young nurse said softly as she pushed the door open and came in. I looked at her in disbelief, the pain of betrayal still lingering in my nerves, my mind in a daze. This was the scene I saw when I woke up in the hospital after fainting by the pool at the age of 23 days ago. I had won the gold medal in the national dance competition, and my parents insisted on holding a banquet at the Bin Hotel to celebrate. At the beginning of the month, Fang Yushan failed her final exam, although she acted as if nothing was wrong and our parents told her it didn't matter. I knew how delicate and sensitive she was, so I kept an eye on her throughout the banquet. Later, she disappeared, and I went out to look for her. Accidentally, I was knocked into the swimming pool by a child, and the icy water made me lose consciousness before I could fully recover from the daze of being reborn. The hospital room door opened again. Lu Yuanchao walked in with a bouquet of flowers, followed by Fang Yushan, whose face was full of concern. How are you feeling? Lu Yuanchao approached my bedside and reached out to touch my forehead. The fever has already gone down, just rest well and you'll recover. Instinctively, I dodged his touch, my face full of mixed emotions. I'm fine, thank you. Fang Yushan stepped forward. Sister, it was all my fault yesterday. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have ended up in the hospital. Her face was streaked with tears, her voice trembling, and her eyes filled with guilt. Lu Yuanchao quickly patted her back gently and pulled her to sit down. It's not your fault, it was an accident. His tone was gentler than I had ever heard from him. Fang Yushan leaned slightly toward him, looking up with gratitude in her eyes, mixed with grievance and a hint of barely noticeable dependence. I coldly observed their interaction, mocking myself inwardly. How obvious the flirtation was, and yet in my past life, I hadn't noticed it at all. Perhaps sensing my icy gaze, Lu Yuanchao's face showed a trace of awkwardness as he hurriedly said, Yushan and I came to pick you up from the hospital. Back home, my mother helped me to the dining table. Yushan asked Wang Ma to make all these. They're all your favorite dishes, she said, placing a piece of spare rib on my plate. Yushan cried all night yesterday, saying she wished she had been the one who fell into the water. Listening to my mother's endless chatter, I looked at the greasy spare rib and lost all appetite. Mom, I want to go back to my room first. Mother paused for a moment. All right. She pulled out a chair for me. I'll keep the food warm. Eat when you're hungry. Lying in bed, I replayed everything about Lu Yuanchao from my past life, and many details I had never paid attention to surfaced one by one since he said I was the one who didn't belong. This time I'll let them be and stop standing in their way. The next day, I packed my things, ready to move into the school dormitory. Yuqing, why do you want to move out? Mother was puzzled. The school isn't far. Isn't it fine to have the driver take you every day? I put the hairdryer into the suitcase. The exams are coming up soon. I want to focus on preparing. Sis, please don't move out. Fang Yushan tugged at my sleeve. I'll miss you if I can't see you. She instinctively put on a pleading expression, blinking her eyes, her voice soft and sweet, as if that would make me give in to all her demands. Like I always did, I gently pulled my sleeve back. I'll move back after the exams. That evening, Lu Yuanchao came to see me. You're moving to the school. He handed me a box of strawberry pastries. Can't you not go? Yushan is very upset. I didn't take the box. It was never me who loved the strawberry flavor. I liked blueberry. I used to think he couldn't tell the two flavors apart, but now I understand. It's because he didn't care. He never got the peach flavor wrong that Fang Yushan liked. If you need a tutor, I can help. You don't have to go to school. He placed the box on the table and said earnestly, "No need," I replied casually. "I just want to focus on studying without being disturbed." "Alright then, if you ever need my help, I'll be at your service anytime." He gazed at me with deep affection, his face full of concern, as if his whole being was devoted to me. If I hadn't lived through a lifetime, I would surely have fallen into it again. "I never loved you at all, you were the one who misunderstood that I loved you, and both our parents also mistakenly thought we were in love." His righteous indignation from the past life, when he shirked responsibility, resurfaced in my mind. It once pushed me into the abyss of despair, making me feel that my decade-long devotion was nothing but a self-indulgent joke too. After moving out, my heart felt unprecedentedly calm, and I devoted all my energy to studying and dance practice. In my past life, I once had the opportunity to study abroad but gave it up for Lu Yuanchao. This time around, I will never repeat that mistake. At 10 o'clock in the evening, I came out of the practice room. "Fang Yuqing, someone is looking for you downstairs." My roommate Zhang Lily saw me, blinked her eyes, and said with curiosity, "Is he your boyfriend? He's really handsome." I looked out the window and saw a tall figure standing under the sycamore tree, holding a box in his hand, constantly glancing toward the entrance. "No," I ignored her teasing and replied calmly, "Instead of going downstairs." I took out my phone from the cabinet and sent Lu Yuanchao a message. "Did you need something from me?" Since I didn't want to have anything more to do with him, I might as well avoid meeting him. The sound of a phone ringing reached my ears. I hesitated for a moment, then pressed the answer button. "Yuqing, I bought you some food." Lu Yuanchao's gentle voice came through the phone. "Come down and get it." "Thanks, but I don't need it." I hung up the phone, feeling not a single ripple in my heart. Lu Yuanchao stood frozen in place. He hadn't expected me to be so cold. Something seemed different from before. As he walked out of the school gate, Fang Yushan was sitting in the passenger seat of his car, waiting for him. "Chow, did you see sister?" she asked in a soft, sticky voice, her eyes wide and watery. "No." Lu Yuanchao was still immersed in that phrase, "I don't need it," his tone stiff. "She didn't come downstairs. It's all my fault for twisting my ankle, otherwise I could have walked sister to the dorm," Fang Yushan said, her face full of guilt. "Sister hasn't been home in a long time. I wonder how she's doing." As she spoke, a glimmer of moisture flickered in her eyes. Lu Yuanchao snapped back to reality, a surge of deep pity and reluctance welling up inside him. All right, don't cry. I know you're worried about your sister. Don't worry, she'll be fine." After saying this, he gently wiped away the tears on Fang Yushan's face with his hand, then tapped her nose. "You're much thinner than she is. You need to eat more." Back home, Lu Yuanchao pulled out his phone and stared blankly at Fang Yuqing's name. Before that message today, Fang Yuqing hadn't sent him anything for a long time. The most recent one was from the day of the banquet, asking if he could come earlier so she could wear the necklace he wanted to give her. That necklace was a new design by Mr. Chloe, and Fang Yuqing had been waiting for it for a long time. He had originally planned to buy it and surprise her, but Fang Yushan told Fang Yuqing the moment his order went through. At that time, her eyes sparkled with joy like crushed starlight. Thinking of how Fang Yuqing looked then, Lu Yuanchao couldn't help but curl his lips into a smile. He tapped a few times on the screen and sent a message to Fang Yuqing. "Are you asleep? Want to have lunch together tomorrow?" After a long while, the screen remained still. A flicker of disappointment crossed Lu Yuanchao's face. Maybe she's already asleep and didn't see it. He comforted himself lying in bed. I looked at Lu Yuanchao's message and couldn't help but find it ironic. Was this an attempt to go on a date with me, or was it following Fang Yushan's arrangement? Every time we were alone together in the past, Fang Yushan would always coincidentally show up. "Yushan is all by herself, let's hang out together," he would always say. I never thought anything of it. Lu Yuanchao and I have known each other since childhood and grew up together. He often accompanied me to the practice room. We discussed homework together, participated in outdoor activities, and even shared our little secrets with each other. Almost all of our friends and both sets of parents took it for granted that we were a perfect match, destined to end up together. I used to firmly believe that too. Looking back now, I was so naive back then. Fang Yushan was 5 years younger than me, and back then she was like a little shadow following us around. Compared to my excellence, Fang Yushan was quite ordinary. She was introverted and timid, insecure and sensitive. Our parents never had any expectations of her, believing that as long as she was happy, that was enough. I took care of her with meticulous attention, feeling a natural sense of responsibility as her older sister. I never imagined she would become entangled with Lu Yuanchao. One, my childhood sweetheart and husband; the other, my own blood sister, joining forces to push me into the abyss. Looking back Now, in my past life, I was a fool, unable to see through or understand anything. I still remember that Valentine's Day when Lu Yuanchao and I had planned to walk across the Lover's Bridge. Fang Yushan's arrival turned our duo into a trio walking side by side. I hinted to her gently, "Mom is waiting for you at home." She looked at me with tearful eyes. "Sister, did I disturb you and Brother Chow?" As she spoke, she stumbled back 2 steps and turned around. "I'll go home now." Her slightly trembling back from crying, looked so desolate that Lu Yuanchao couldn't help but blame me. "Yuqing, she's your sister. How could you treat her like this?" My face flushed with shame, and I felt deeply guilty. "Brother Chow, don't scold my sister." She ran back and grabbed my hand. "It's all my fault. I shouldn't have disturbed you." Lu Yuanchao immediately stepped forward to support her and, taking the opportunity, pulled her into his arms. "It's not your fault, it's your sister who did wrong." At that time, I didn't notice anything unusual and even felt ashamed of what I had just said. 3. The next morning, I finally replied to Lu Yuanchao, "No, thanks, I need to study." Then I put him out of my mind and threw myself into my heavy schoolwork. In the evening, I received a call from my father. "Yuqing, Grandpa Lu is returning from abroad tomorrow. We'll have dinner at their old house in the evening." In my past life, Grandpa Lu had always been kind to me, both before and after my marriage. Although I didn't want to run into Lu Yuanchao again, I couldn't skip this gathering since he was back. I didn't wear the haute couture dress my parents had prepared for me, opting instead for a simple outfit of jeans and a white shirt. Arriving at the old house, I saw Lu Yuanchao and Fang Yushan from a distance, chatting and laughing in the garden. I handed the gift to Grandpa Lu. "Grandpa, I wish you good health. Come here, girl. Sit by Grandpa." Then he called out to Lu Yuanchao, "Go get Yuqing a cup of tea. It's hot today." A nearby servant covered her mouth and teased, "As soon as Miss Fang arrives, the young master takes over our work. That's what that rascal should be doing." Grandpa Lu joined in the laughter. I took the tea, thanked him with a distant expression. Perhaps sensing my coldness, Grandpa Lu deliberately arranged for Lu Yuanchao and me to sit together during the meal. "Sister, can I sit next to you?" Fang Yushan stepped forward, her eyes full of pleading. "I miss you so much. It's been a long time since we last ate together." Lu Yuanchao quickly gave up his seat, pulled Fang Yushan between us, and then piled several of her favorite dishes onto her plate. "Brother Chow, sister loves this dish, give her some," Fang Yushan said, pointing at a plate. I refused calmly. "I don't like it anymore." "Sister, I'm sorry, I didn't know." Her eyes reddened, and tears trembled on her lashes. I looked up at her, my gaze knowing perhaps my eyes were too direct, instantly stinging her nerves. In her panic, she knocked over the wine glass, her hands at a loss. "Yuqing, you scared Yushan." Lu Yuanchao's tone carried a hint of reproach. "Yushan was just concerned about you." I gave him a faint glance and continued eating with my head down. Grandpa Lu sensed the awkwardness among the 3 of us. After the dinner party ended, he asked Lu Yuanchao to take me home. "Yuqing, I wasn't blaming you just now." He took my hand and looked into my eyes. "Yushan is more timid, you should be more understanding." I subtly pulled my hand away. "Okay, this is for you," he said, pulling out a brocade box. The moment I saw it, I felt it was perfect for you. "This is a bracelet made of warm jade. You have a cold constitution, so it's just right for you." With that, he moved to put it on me. In my past life, he said he had never loved me, but every word of concern, every handhold, and every gift only led me to misunderstand, making me believe we liked each other. When I got out of the car, I secretly took off the bracelet and placed it in the compartment next to the rearview mirror in his car. Since I didn't want to be entangled, I shouldn't accept his gifts anymore. Midweek, I took time to go home and sorted out all the gifts Lu Yuanchao had given me. There were pinwheels from childhood, favorite sand paintings, and later jewelry. I didn't expect them to fill a large cardboard box. I sealed the box and stuffed it into the deepest part of the closet. There was no need to deliberately return these things, but I would never open them again. My dancing talent was praised by Teacher Wang from the Academic Affairs Office. He asked if I wanted to study abroad. "Fang Yuqing, Professor William appreciates you very much. They have better conditions to support you there. You should cherish this opportunity." In my past life, Teacher Wang had told me the same thing, and I immediately shared the good news with Lu Yuanchao. "Yuqing, it's a good thing that you can pursue further studies." He hesitated. "But you're a girl, thousands of miles away from home. What if someone bullies you? If something really happens, I'll be heartbroken too." He looked at me, his tone deliberately softened with tenderness. At that time, I thought he truly couldn't bear to part with me. Faced with Teacher Wang's persuasion, I held on to Lu Yuanchao's arm and vowed, having him is enough. Looking back now, it's utterly ridiculous. "Teacher, I will cherish this opportunity," I said firmly. "All right, then discuss it with Your family, if there are no issues, you'll depart in a week. 4. Sister, you said before you'd move into the school dormitory, and now you're going abroad. Is it because of the fall into the water last time? Fang Yushan said with a sob. I apologize to you, sister. Please don't go. Okay, Yuqing, Yushan didn't mean it. Don't be willful, Mother said as she walked over to Fang Yushan. It's not safe for a girl like you to go so far away. Yeah, sis, the universities in the capital are also great, close to home, and we can be with you. Fang Yushan looked at me, same as before, the same words as in my past life. I'm going abroad to better complete my studies. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Not wanting to waste any more words with them, I turned and went back to my room. At night, I was woken up by a commotion downstairs. Wan Ma, what's going on? I rubbed my sleepy eyes. Miss, the second young lady has fainted. Wan Ma said with tired eyes. The master and madam have taken her to the hospital. The moonlight outside the window slanted in, casting a sharp line of light and shadow across my stunned face. How could Yushan faint again? She might be too heartbroken. The madam said she cried for half the night. She raised her hand to rub her temples, muttering to herself as she turned back to her room. I hope this time it's real. I lowered my eyes to hide the mockery in them. The timing of this fainting spell was always perfectly calculated in the hospital. Tears clung to Fang Yushan's eyelashes. The moment she opened her eyes, she let out a couple of sobs. Dad, Mom, did I make you worry again? It's all my fault. I shouldn't be so weak. As she spoke, tears streamed down her face again. Her mother placed a soft pillow behind her neck, eyes red-rimmed. Don't cry, don't cry. The doctor said you're just too heartbroken. A couple of days of rest and you'll be fine. You've always been too sensible, bottling up all your grievances. Her father handed her a glass of warm water. If something's bothering you, just tell Dad. I'll make it right for you. When she saw me come in, Fang Yushan's expression turned a little awkward. Sister, her voice was hoarse. I'm sorry, sister. It's all my fault. I made you come all this way. If I hadn't fainted, you wouldn't have to go through all this trouble. I didn't respond. Placing the insulated lunchbox on the table, Aunt Wang made it. You need to eat something light now, sister. Can you not go abroad? A teardrop suddenly rolled down her eyelashes. I'll be lonely if you leave. Get some rest. I'm heading back to school. I turned and left, not interested in watching her act. At the hospital entrance, I ran into Lu Yuanchao getting out of his car. Yuqing, is Yushan okay? You shouldn't make her sad. Go see her. She needs you now. With that, I walked away without looking back, watching my retreating figure. Lu Yuanchao felt a strange emotion stir within him, then turned and headed upstairs. I told Teacher Wang about my decision. Good, I'll have them book the tickets. Teacher Wang patted my shoulder approvingly. Remember, your career won't let you down. Teacher Wang's encouragement stung my heart. Indeed, only one's career will never let you down. Why didn't I understand this truth in my past life? In the evening, I was reviewing my lessons. The screen of my phone on the desk lit up. Yuqing, do you really have to go abroad? The pop-up dialog box showed the name Lu Yuanchao. Yes, I replied briefly. After a long while, the screen lit up again. Can we talk? Please, there's no need. I turned off my phone. At noon, I was walking back to the dormitory with my classmates after class. At the entrance, I saw Lu Yuanchao standing under the plane tree. Yuqing, he walked up to me. Can we talk? I told my classmates to go on ahead and went with him to the playground behind the school. Go ahead, I said, standing still. Can you not go abroad? He tried to put his hand on my shoulder, but I subtly avoided it. Why? I stared into his eyes. I don't want you to leave, he said, his eyes darting away. It's not you, I said, looking straight at him. It's Fang Yushan, isn't it? When we were kids dividing up candy, Fang Yushan would always clutch the biggest piece in her hand, then look up at me with her little face, wearing an expression that clearly showed she wanted to eat it but was trying her best to hold back. Sister, you have it, I don't like sweets. When I went to the dance studio to practice, she would take the initiative to accompany me, helping me tidy up my dance shoes while trying to hide the gloom in her eyes, and proudly show off to others. My sister dances so well. On the day of the music exam, she would accidentally hide the sheet music deep in the drawer, causing me to panic on the spot. In the end, she would appear before our parents with red-rimmed eyes, guiltily saying to me, Sister, it's all my fault. If only I had reminded you. Now, she wraps dependency and reluctance around her jealousy, little by little binding the wings I want to spread. You, what nonsense are you talking about? Lu Yuanchao's Adam's apple suddenly bobbed as he took half a step back. Yushan is just worried about you, afraid you'll suffer outside, worried about me. I took a step forward, my voice as calm as a frozen lake, worried enough to hide my materials during the exam and make me panic. Worried enough to deliberately disappear at the celebration party and make me anxious, worried enough to pretend to accidentally spill ink on my application materials. Now, are you going to stop me from studying abroad by fainting out of worry for me? I stared into his eyes and asked, word by word. 5. Lu Yuanchao's face turned pale. Yuqing, those are all trivial matters. He grabbed my wrist, speaking incoherently. Yushan, she was just too afraid of losing you. Yushan loves you as her sister. You can't deny her over such a small thing. I gently pulled my hand away. I have my own life. It's not meant to satisfy Fang Yushan's needs, nor do I need her to tell me what to do. Please don't bother me anymore. With that, I turned and walked away, watching my resolute back. He suddenly growled from behind, "You're determined to leave, aren't you? If you go, don't come back." Those words were like a sharp dagger, stabbing straight into my heart. In my past life, he had said something similar, but back then I was full of love for him and ran back crying, begging for his forgiveness. Now, thinking back, I only find it laughable. This time, I didn't look back, my steps firm. In the distance, a burst of colorful fireworks bloomed, as if bidding farewell to my decaying old dreams. On the night before leaving for the airport, I packed my luggage and sat at my desk, my fingertips brushing over the diary filled with heartfelt thoughts. Here were all my love for Lu Yuanchao, sweet, shy, and filled with hopes of spending a lifetime together with him. I tore it apart piece by piece, completely bidding farewell to my past life. Suddenly, I recalled the car accident from my past life, which I had remembered right after being reborn. It was that car accident that cost me my beloved dancing career. When Lu Yuanchao knelt down with a diamond ring and proposed to me, I gladly became a housewife. That day, I sprained my ankle, and Lu Yuanchao drove me to school. On the way, he received a call from Fang Yushan. "Chow, I'm so scared, can you come and stay with me?" Lu Yuanchao's heart tightened instantly. "Yushan, don't cry first. What happened? Tell me slowly." My palms were sweating too, and I looked at him anxiously. "I dreamed about my sister. My sister fell into the sea," came a sobbing voice from the phone. All right, stop crying. Your sister is fine." Lu Yuanchao coaxed her patiently. "Chow, I'm scared. Can you come pick me up and take me to find my sister? I'm worried about her." "Okay, I'll be right there. Wait for me." Lu Yuanchao turned the car around and asked me, "Let's go pick up Yushan and take you together." Before he could finish, in the moment he was distracted, a truck crashed into us. My mind was still immersed in the fear of that moment when my phone screen suddenly lit up. It was a message from Lu Yuanchao. "I'll wait for you at the dormitory gate at 7 tomorrow morning to take you to the airport." I stared at the message for a long time, my fingertips ice cold. Because of his distraction, I lost a leg out of guilt and pity. He proposed to me. Before this, he had been wavering between me and Fang Yushan. He couldn't bear to give up the admiration he got from others when I stood by his side, yet he also enjoyed Fang Yushan's dependence and adoration of him. I replied, "No need, I already have an appointment." Putting down my phone, my heart was utterly calm. In this life, I would not repeat the same mistakes, nor let anyone lock away my potential to soar. The next morning, I walked out of the dormitory, carrying my suitcase. Under the plane tree, a familiar black car was parked, with Lu Yuanchao leaning against the door. Seeing me, he flashed his usual gentle smile. "Come on, I'll take you." Without answering, I bypassed him and walked straight to the taxi at the school gate. The driver helped me put my suitcase in the trunk. After I got in, he glanced back and asked, "Your friend?" "No." In the rearview mirror, Lu Yuanchao's smile froze on his face. Fang Yushan leaned out from the passenger seat, her forehead fringe lifted by the wind, her eyes, always misty with moisture, filled with anxiety and resentment. As the car drove away from the school gate, I saw that black sedan burst out suddenly, its engine roaring, growing larger and larger in the rearview mirror. The driver swerved sharply to avoid it, his voice full of shock and anger. "This driver must be crazy." I gripped the handle above the door tightly, my heart pounding wildly. When the car reached the intersection, the red light had just come on when a large truck suddenly rushed in from the diagonal rear. As it brushed past the black sedan, the airflow from the body nearly overturned the roadside guardrails. Lu Yuanchao frantically yanked the steering wheel, and the car slammed into the barrier like a leaf swept away by a gale, the loud crack rattling our eardrums. The taxi driver slammed on the brakes in fright, the needle on the dashboard trembling wildly. I looked back and saw Fang Yushan struggling to crawl out of the deformed car door, her arms stretched out pointing in my direction, her mouth opening and closing. Lu Yuanchao was slumped over the steering wheel, his usually gentle silhouette twisted into a ferocious shape under the sunlight. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and said to the driver, "Sir, please hurry up, I'm in a rush." 7. Watching the chaos in the rearview mirror shrink into a blurry shadow, my heart gradually calmed down. Arriving at the airport, I received a message from Teacher Wang. Professor William is already waiting for you over there, go for it. My fingertip brushed over the words, go for it on the screen, and the weight in my heart finally lifted. I glanced back at the familiar city and resolutely boarded the plane. Life abroad was busy and fulfilling. I poured sweat in the dance studio and absorbed knowledge in the classroom occasionally, returning from late-night practice. I would find messages from my parents on my phone. They said Fan Yushan was sick again, crying into her pillow all night. They said Lu Yuanchao kept talking about me, often staring blankly at my photo. There was not a single ripple in my heart. I simply replied lightly, got it, and then continued with my own life. 6 months later, my mother called me, her voice hesitant and faltering. Yuqing, Yushan and Lu Yuanchao are engaged. My voice was flat, without any fluctuation. Today at the engagement party, Yushan cried a lot. She said she's sorry to you. You're her older sister. Can you try to comfort her? My mother's tone was a bit embarrassed. I could tell she knew this request was a bit unreasonable. Mom, I said, tying the satin ribbon of my ballet shoes in front of the mirror. This was her own choice, Yuqing. But she's your sister after all. Blood is thicker than water. My mother's breathing grew heavy. She chose her own path. She should walk it herself. I didn't let her finish. I knew my sister would never forgive me. She just can't stand to see me happy. Fan Yushan's sharp cries suddenly came through the phone. My mother quickly hung up, as if afraid I might overhear, or perhaps in a hurry to comfort Fan Yushan. I shook my head with a smile. Those people and matters had long ceased to concern me. I met Su Yanting at an international dance exchange event. He was an architect, gentle and refined, who had come to the exchange for inspiration. After the crowd gradually dispersed, he walked slowly to the backstage entrance and extended his hand. Miss Fong, you are outstanding. There was not a hint of frivolous scrutiny in his eyes, only respect and appreciation for who I truly am. We became friends. He would interpret my dance through the lens of architecture. Remember that I love warm lemon honey water after practice, and when I earned my doctorate, he held out sunflowers and said, the way you stand on stage shines brighter than the sun. Our love was never about breathtaking drama, but a gentle, steady flow. A year later, we walked down the aisle, surrounded by the blessings of our friends. The following year, I gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl, filling our home with boundless vitality. Su Yanting doted on the three of us, treating us like little princess and prince, and our days felt like tea slowly steeped in warm water, rich and lingering. Those wounds once torn by betrayal were finally smoothed into a warm, even fabric by happiness. 10 years later, due to an important dance tour, I returned to my home country with my family in the airport terminal. My parents were already waiting, their figures slightly stooped under the dome lights. When they saw me coming out, their eyes instantly reddened. Awkwardly, they stroked the tops of my children's heads, choking on words they couldn't speak. In the moment I turned, I was suddenly knocked backward by someone, and only when I looked up did I realize it was Lu Yuanchao. He looked much older than 10 years ago, with gray hair at his temples and a gaunt figure. Yuqing, you're finally back. His voice was hoarse, and his eyes were filled with an overwhelming regret. Su Yanting instinctively shielded me behind him, his demeanor polite yet distant. Sir, may I ask who you are? I am her. Lu Yuanchao's Adam's apple bobbed violently, his voice choked with emotion. I am her friend. I looked at him calmly. Long time no see. My voice was flat, without a trace of emotion. We still need to get to the theater. Excuse us. The tour was a great success. When the spotlight shone on me again, the audience erupted in thunderous applause. As my gaze swept across the front row, I spotted Fan Yushan in the audience. She was wearing a dress that looked borrowed, and the jealousy in her eyes was undisguised. At the end, she stopped me backstage, her face streaked with tears. Sister, why did you come back? Her face, with makeup smeared all over, leaned close to mine, her voice hysterical. It's you ruined my life. His heart has always been with you. He never loved me. Her eyes suddenly turned wild. Why do you get to have both a son and a daughter? If I can't have happiness, you won't either. Su Yanting pushed her away and shielded the children in his arms. Watching her drowning in pain, I suddenly felt a deep sense of pity. Our parents rushed over and pulled her into their arms. My mother took my hand, her voice choked with emotion. Yuqing, for the sake of her being your own sister, please let her off this once. She just loves Lu Yuanchao too much. I gently withdrew my hand. Mom, you've never asked me what I truly want. In the end, I didn't call the police, but I was completely disheartened. After the tour ended, I took my family and left the city. As the plane taxied, Su Yanting held my hand and asked, thinking about the past. I gazed out the window at the shrinking city skyline and smiled. Good thing I didn't look back 10 years ago. The next time I heard about them was a year later. Lu Yuanchao and Fang Yushan had gotten divorced. On the day they got their divorce certificate, they nearly came to blows arguing outside the Civil Affairs Bureau. Fang Yushan moved back to her parents' home, spending her days crying. As for Lu Yuanchao, he quit his job and went around asking for news of me, but he could never find me again. But none of that concerns me anymore. My life is happy. I have a considerate husband, lovely children, and the spotlight on stage. The betrayals I once thought would be unforgettable have faded into blurry shadows over the years. In this life, I have finally found the sunshine that truly belongs to me. The end. That's the end of the first story. Don't go away. The next story is even more exciting. In my past life, I was the envy of everyone as the wife of a high-ranking official, but my husband, Meng Shuren, had suffered injuries to his vocal cords and groin on the battlefield. He lost both his male function and his ability to speak. So, Meng Shuren and I endured a sexless marriage for 40 years. I never complained, staying faithfully in a loveless marriage, spending half my life with a mute. It wasn't until my 60th birthday that I stumbled upon over 500 phone cards in his study. All of them were calls to the unattainable military troop beauty he pined for. So he wasn't unable to speak. He just didn't want to speak to me. He wasn't incapable of being a man. He just didn't want to be my man. The crushing blow made me die with resentment. When I opened my eyes again, it was 1984. In this life, I will never suffer for any man again. The 1980s were a hotbed for entrepreneurship, riding the wave of reform and opening up. I was determined to make my way to Shenzhen. The Shenzhen Special Economic Zone was established in August 1980, and it had only been developing for 4 years. Transportation from my hometown to that place was very underdeveloped. Naturally, there were no planes or high-speed trains back then. The only option was the old green trains. Not only did I have to transfer 3 times along the way, but the earliest available train wasn't until Sunday. I drew a red circle on the calendar. In 5 days, I would be leaving this remote and isolated little mountain village behind. After borrowing the women's director's bicycle and riding it all afternoon, I finally arrived at the station just before sunset and bought the ticket. Turning around, I saw Meng Shuren at the exit, who had just gotten off the train. I was reborn, and he was 40 years younger, tall and straight, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. He was strikingly heroic, the youngest regiment commander in the army. His future was boundless. He was also the man I had loved for decades. In my past life, I foolishly thought that as long as our names were on the same marriage certificate, we would be a family. Even if he couldn't speak, couldn't consummate the marriage, and couldn't give me a child, I had no complaints but to care for him with a lifetime of love and passion warming him. In the end, she turned her entire life into a huge joke. Seeing me, Meng Shuren furrowed his handsome brows. He spoke with some displeasure. Yi Tan, didn't I tell you not to come pick me up at the station? I just remembered. Today is the day Meng Shuren returns home from the military for a family visit. At this time in my previous life, I sent him a telegram saying that we had been engaged for 3 years, and in the countryside, a woman of 20 was already considered an old maid. So I told Meng Shuren that I wanted to get married and join him in the military. In the army, once an officer reaches a certain rank, he can have his wife and children come to live with him. It can also solve employment and schooling issues for military dependents for couples who have been separated for a long time. This is the most anticipated thing. Meng Shuren became a regiment commander last year and is now eligible to have his family join him. I've been hoping he would come and take me away, but he never agreed. I got anxious and sent a telegram saying that if he didn't come to pick me up, I would take my luggage and go find him at the military base. Meng Shuren had no choice but to return reluctantly, and he specifically told me not to meet him at the station. I knew he was deliberately keeping his distance from me. In my past life, I was very upset. I felt that since we were already engaged, even if we hadn't registered our marriage or consummated it in the countryside, we were considered husband and wife. I wanted to be with Meng Shuren and hoped to get our marriage certificate as soon as possible, so that I could go to the military base and take care of his daily needs. I also wanted to have his children, but in this life, I have already given up on the idea of being a military wife. I was determined to make it in Shenzhen, so much so that I even forgot about Meng Shuren's return. I came to buy a ticket to Shenzhen, not to pick him up. Meng Shuren misunderstood, and his handsome face was filled with impatience. Are you in that much of a hurry? We're still young, there's no need to rush into marriage. Life in the military is tough. Following the troops isn't about enjoying comfort. Your presence will only distract me. I still want to keep improving. Meng Shuren started off by stating the reason he didn't want me to join the army. I'm not here to pick you up. I also think it's too early to get married now. I won't be following the army. My words left Meng Shuren's face filled with shock, but immediately, a mocking smile appeared. Yi Tan, since when did you Learn to retreat in order to advance. Meng Shuren thought I was madly in love with him and simply didn't believe that I would give up on the idea of following the army. I don't want to explain anything either anyway. In 5 days, I'll be heading to Deep City from now on. The sky is high and the earth is vast. With no more ties, it's over 40 li from the city to the village. I borrowed the women's director's bicycle to ride here. On the way back, Meng Shuren rode the bike with me on the back. He was naturally faster than me on the bike, but it still took him over 2 hours to get back to the village. He didn't say a single word to me the entire time. The entire journey was filled with awkward silence. It reminds me of the 40 years of marriage in my past life, a silence as suffocating as being mute. By the time we arrived at the village, it was already past 8 in the evening. The villagers were frugal and reluctant to turn on the lights at night, leaving the entire village pitch black. Our arrival in the village set off a chorus of barking dogs. My mother passed away early, and my father died 10 years ago, saving Meng Shuren. All these years, I've always lived with the Meng family. Uncle Meng and Aunt Meng are very kind people, and they have always treated me like a daughter-in-law with great affection. Seeing us enter the house, Aunt Meng, while heating up food by the stove, grumbled at Meng Shuren. Son, you made the right decision to agree to bring your wife to the army. Since we're together every day, let's have a chubby grandson soon. Meng Shuren pressed his lips tightly together and remained silent. He is a person with very strong opinions. In his previous life, because he couldn't marry the woman he truly desired, he would rather remain childless for his entire life, causing the Meng family line to come to an end. Uncle Meng and Aunt Meng both passed away with regret. Be good to Yi Zi. The Yi family has shown you kindness. If it weren't for Uncle Yi saving your life back then, you wouldn't even be alive, let alone be a regimental commander. Uncle Meng noticed his son's impatience and quickly gave his instructions. Enough, I told you I'm going to marry her. Stop pressuring me. Okay, I'm grateful to Uncle Yi for saving me, but back then, it was just an accident. I'd rather die than owe such a huge favor. Let me repay you with a lifetime. 10 years ago, my father was the village militia company commander. That year, a flash flood struck, and Meng Shuren was swept into a mountain stream. It was my father who jumped into the water and desperately rescued Meng Shuren, but he himself drowned due to exhaustion. I became an orphan and have lived with the Meng family ever since. Child, from now on, you are the true daughter of our Meng family, the wife of Shuren. This promise ruined my entire life. Meng Shuren married me because of that promise. Yet he felt as though he was being held hostage by morality. He resents me for taking over his life and ruining his love. So even after 40 years of marriage to me, he still refused to touch me or deign to speak to me. What kind of attitude is that? Are you even speaking like a human? Did you really think I wouldn't dare to deal with you just because you're the regiment commander? You little brat, even if you become a general, I'm still your father. Uncle Meng glared angrily, his beard bristling, afraid I would be upset. He grabbed a rolling pin and was about to hit Meng Shuren. Uncle, he's tired, let's eat first. I spoke up to defuse the situation. After all, I would be leaving in a few days anyway. I just wanted peace, not a commotion. I knew all too well that the more Uncle Meng lost his temper, the more Meng Shuren would despise me. A stubborn person like him can't be beaten into submission. My dear girl, Aunt Meng held my hand and whispered a few words of advice. You have to keep a man in check. Don't let him have his way too much. What a wonderful mother-in-law, right? But it was destined that we would never have the bond of a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law in this life. Just as we sat down at the dinner table and before we could pick up our chopsticks, the village party secretary's loud voice came blaring through the village loudspeaker. Shuren, the army called. They said there's an urgent matter. I'll say it again. Shuren. Meng Shuren stood up abruptly when he heard the broadcast. I have to get back to the army. He grabbed his backpack and left without looking back. It was exactly the same as in his previous life. He hadn't even had time to settle in at home before Qi Rongrong called him away. Qi Rongrong was a literary and art soldier in the army's cultural troupe. She was beautiful, good at singing and dancing, and could recite poetry. She was Meng Shuren's first love. Although back in that past life, the term white moonlight wasn't popular yet, but as long as Qi Rongrong said a single word, Meng Shuren would go through fire and water, climbing mountains and diving into seas. In that past life, after Meng Shuren left, Uncle and Aunt Meng sent me to the military and even found a division commander to be our witness. Unable to withstand the pressure, Meng Shuren finally agreed to get the marriage certificate with me and let me accompany him in the military. But on the night of our wedding, he was taken away by a single phone call from Qi Rongrong. Then he said he was going out on a mission. When he came back, his vocal cords and groin were both injured, leaving me a virgin for my entire life. For the next 40 years, I could only communicate with my own husband through pen, paper, and gestures. I swallowed my tears and devoted myself wholeheartedly to taking care of his daily life. I served my in-laws. I was so foolish. It never occurred to me that if he were truly mute, how could he have risen from regiment commander all the way to chief in the military? He would have been discharged from the army long ago due to illness. In the military, he could communicate perfectly with others and give orders. He just couldn't be bothered to talk to me at home anyway. I was very well behaved and never pried into the people or matters of his military unit. This was how he managed to keep it hidden from me for decades. It wasn't until my 60th birthday, when I was cleaning his study, that I discovered a box containing over 500 phone cards. They were all IC cards specifically for making international calls, because Chi Rongrong later married abroad, went through 2 divorces, and wasn't doing well. Meng Shuren felt that he had let down his first love, so he intended to make up for it with 40 years of tenderness. Chi Rongrong's house abroad and her car were all bought by him. He refused to have children with me, yet treated Chi Rongrong's 3 children from her 2 previous marriages as his own. He was responsible for the tuition and living expenses of those 3 children even at their wedding. Meng Shuren attended as the representative of the bride's family. I was kept completely in the dark about all of this. I never asked him where the money went. 100% trust was met with the coldest, most ruthless betrayal. After learning the truth, my mental world collapsed. I fell from the balcony in despair. So I get a second chance at life. I don't want a man who can never be warmed up anymore. There were still 4 days before I left for Xinjiang, and I was packing my things. Though an orphan lives a lonely and miserable life, the advantage is having no attachments. I could leave at any moment. Few changes of clothes were packed into the luggage bag. I sewed an inner pocket into my undergarments with needle and thread, holding my ID card and 300 yuan. This was all my savings. In 1984, a city worker's monthly wage was only a little over 30 yuan. 300 yuan was definitely a huge sum of money. This was the pension paid after my father's sacrifice. I had saved it for 10 years without ever touching it. In my previous life, when I married Meng Shuren, I used this money to buy him a Shanghai brand watch. I also bought a sewing machine and a brand new Forever brand bicycle, both of which I brought along to the military base, but I never saw him wear that watch even once in this life. Of course, I wouldn't bother kissing up to someone who gives me the cold shoulder. This 300 yuan was the capital I used to start my business in Xinjiang. When Uncle Meng and Aunt Meng saw me packing my luggage, they thought I was going to join the military as a dependent and were very happy. They wanted to see me off, but I refused. Aunt Meng gave me another 500 yuan, saying it was the betrothal gift from the Meng family. I repeatedly refused, and Meng wouldn't take no for an answer and insisted on giving it to me. I had no choice but to accept it. My father lost his life for the Meng family, so I feel no guilt in taking this money. 3 days before leaving for Shenzhen, I went to my parents' graves to say goodbye. Mom and Dad, I'm going to Shenzhen to join the nation's great cause of reform and opening up. Wait for your daughter to return. Don't worry, even without Meng Shuren, I will still be happy. Sunday arrived, and I bid farewell to Uncle Meng and Aunt Meng, leaving this mountain village where I had lived for over 20 years. The green train rumbled and roared toward Deep City. It was over 1,000 kilometers away from Deep City with 3 transfers. The journey would take 3 days and 2 nights. I wondered if it was a coincidence or fate. The city where I made my first transfer happened to be where Meng Shuren's unit was stationed. There were 3 hours of free time between transfers. I never thought of using that free time to say goodbye to Meng Shuren. There's no need, and he wouldn't care anyway. I was just having noodles at the state-run guest house outside the station when I ran into Meng Shuren again, and also saw Chi Rongrong. In the early 1980s, people's clothing in China came in only 2 colors, army green and light gray. Chi Rongrong, wearing a goose yellow plaidie dress, stood out conspicuously in the crowd. The 2 of them were also eating here. There was a large bag beside Chi Rongrong. It contained performance costumes, suggesting that the art troupe was about to go out for a show. Meng Shuren had come to see me off at the station. Meng Shuren's eyes met mine in the air. I didn't want to speak, planning to pretend I didn't know him, but after his face flushed slightly with embarrassment, he quickly regained his sense of superiority, a perfect expression. He strode over to me. Yi Tan, you're getting more and more presumptuous. I didn't pick you up. Who told you to come to the military base on your own? Do you think following the army is like playing house? It requires a lot of paperwork. Aren't you just making things more difficult for me? From a young age, Meng Shuren had always been an outstanding person in the military. He was also a key candidate for development, and I had always regarded him as my idol, so much so that his confidence bordered on narcissism. Meng Shuren, I'm just passing by, not here to see you. Ha ha ha. Meng Shuren let out a sarcastic, hearty laugh. Yi Tan, since when did you learn to lie? Not a single truthful word comes out of your mouth. A few days ago, you said you wouldn't marry me, and now you've chased me all the way to the military base. I've told you many times, I'm building my career right now, and I don't want you holding me back." He was about to say more when Chi Rongrong spoke up, her voice soft and gentle. "Commander Meng, please cool down outside, let me talk to Sister Yezi. Sister Yezi has traveled all this way to be with you. We can't let her feel unwelcome." Only then did Meng Shuren snort and leave the guest house. Chi Rongrong moved closer to me, the smile vanishing from her face in a voice so low that only the two of us could hear. She taunted me provocatively, "You're just a country bumpkin from the countryside. Why would the regiment commander marry you? You shamelessly chased him all the way to the army to be a military spouse. You're truly despicable. Isn't it just that you used your father's life to threaten Shuren into marrying you? Ha, the life of a country bumpkin is cheap, dying is what you deserve." She was about to say something else. Slap. I had already slapped Chi Rongrong hard across the face. This slap was one I had waited 2 lifetimes to deliver, so I put all my strength into it. 5 clear palm prints appeared on Chi Rongrong's fair little face. In my previous life, after I arrived at the military unit, Chi Rongrong said almost exactly the same thing. Although I was furious, I was worried that Meng Shuren would see me as a shrew, so I held back and didn't fight back. In the end, Chi Rongrong deliberately fell down herself and falsely accused me of hitting her. So in this life, I actually slapped her, to save her the trouble of putting on a hypocritical act. A look of shock flashed across Chi Rongrong's face. Clearly, she hadn't expected that I would actually dare to hit her, but then, it quickly turned into delight, and she covered her face, crying out, "Commander, she hit me." Meng Shuren rushed in immediately upon hearing the sound. "Yi Tan, you're going too far, apologize." Chi Rongrong covered her face, a flicker of triumph flashing in her eyes. "In my past life, I was forced to apologize." I cried, and explained that Chi Rongrong had provoked me first, and I hadn't even laid a hand on her, but Meng Shuren wouldn't listen at all. He refused to believe that Chi Rongrong could say something so vicious. "Rongrong only reads poetry, Shelley, Goethe, Pushkin. I don't believe she could be so mean." In this life, of course, I saw no need to explain. I couldn't stomach the meal any longer, so I got up and left. This was the first time in all these years that I had defied Meng Shuren. He was already furious. "If you won't apologize, then get the hell out of here. I won't marry a shrew like you." I stopped and turned around. "Meng Shuren, don't worry, you won't see me again from now on." He suddenly became a little flustered. What do you mean by that?" "Exactly what you hope it means. Good thing we're only engaged and not legally married, so our engagement is called off. From now on, you and I have nothing to do with each other. Don't feel burdened. Even though my dad saved your life with his own, you're not obligated to marry me. Like you said, it was just an accident. My dad was a good man. He would have saved anyone who fell into the river. He didn't intend to blackmail you into marrying me. His daughter isn't that bad off that she needs to resort to such methods to get married." Hearing me say this, Meng Shuren's face showed embarrassment and shame. I didn't mean it that way. I'm very grateful to Uncle Meng. No need for gratitude. He's already passed away. These words are meaningless now. I turned around and walked into the station. Meng Shuren thought I had been persuaded by him to return to the village. He let out a long sigh and caught up again. I'll take you back to the village. Give me a few more days to think about the military dependence matter." Even now, Meng Shuren still didn't believe I was really going to break up with him. I couldn't be bothered to explain anymore. Crash. Chi Rongrong deliberately knocked over the table, and the noodles I had only taken one bite of spilled all over her. Meng Shuren quickly stopped in his tracks, about to go back and take care of his moonlight. "Call me when you get home." He pulled out 100 yuan from his pocket, shoved it into my hand, and turned around to rush back. I strode quickly into the station. Even though I told myself not to cry, tears still streamed down my face uncontrollably. "Farewell, Meng Shuren. From this moment on, you have been erased from my life. From now on, the mountains are high and the rivers are long. My joys and sorrows have nothing to do with you." The train rattled on for 3 days and 2 nights before finally arriving in Xinqiang. In my past life, I had been to Xinqiang a few times, but back then, Xinqiang was already on par with Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou, a top-tier city in China, renowned internationally for its prosperity. It was a bustling metropolis. Yet, more than 40 years ago, Xinqiang started out as a small fishing village. In 1984, Xinqiang was at its most vibrant, poised to embark on a fast track of high-speed development. Choosing to come to Xinqiang after being reborn was because this is a paradise for starting businesses and chasing dreams. I walked along the streets of Xinqiang. Although the street scene at this moment was still quite shabby, with few high-rise buildings and no luxury cars crowding the roads, yet the crowds were bustling, and I could hear dialects from all over the country. These were all young people who had come to Shenzhen to chase their dreams. Decades later, many well-known entrepreneurs, billionaires would emerge from among them. I was fortunate enough to be one of them. I believed that with the advantage of being reborn, I would surely achieve success. Only then would I not let down the second chance that heaven had given me. I already have a plan for what to do in Shenzhen. Although there are many factories in Shenzhen at this time, some are state-owned, and some are joint ventures or foreign invested, but I never thought about working in a factory because I only have a junior high school education, and even if I were reborn, I wouldn't suddenly become a scientific genius. I can't create high-tech things like computers, mobile phones, or chips. Besides, my capital is limited. I only have 1,000 yuan. I can only do business that has low barriers to entry, requires little investment, but can still make money. Service industry, more specifically, the catering business. Although this era has become more open, allowing people to do business and trade, individual industrial and commercial workers are called self-employed individuals, yet, due to ideological limitations, the vast majority of society still believes that being a self-employed individual is not the right path, and even shameful, disgraceful. The best way out is still to join the army or work in a factory, preferably a state-owned factory. This is called an iron rice bowl. Therefore, there were very few individually owned or private businesses when you walked down the street, aside from state-run restaurants, post offices, supply and marketing cooperatives, and non-staple food stores. You could hardly see any other shops. Take the restaurants for example. The waitstaff in state-run restaurants were all regular employees with established positions, so there was no such thing as the customer is king or service with a smile. The waitstaff were incredibly arrogant. It was truly a case of doors hard to enter, faces hard to look at, and words hard to hear. So even if many people had money in their pockets, they were reluctant to eat at these state-owned restaurants. It was all too easy to not have a good meal, but end up with a belly full of anger. So I decided to start my business by opening a small eatery. I chose the location in Shikou Industrial Zone in Shenzhen. I counted, and there were already over 100 factories here, with a total workforce of about 50,000 to 60,000 people. Most of them were from other places, mostly single, without the conditions to cook for themselves. Compared to inland areas, the workers here had higher incomes. Some workers could even earn 200 yuan a month. Although many factories have canteens, people naturally want to improve their lives once they have money, eating something delicious, so the catering industry is definitely a necessity. Besides, I have a unique advantage. After following the army in my previous life, I worked in the military logistics department, specifically in charge of managing the canteen. Soldiers in the military come from all over the country, with diverse tastes in food, and because I had no warmth at home and no one to talk to, my only interest was cooking, studying cuisines from all over the country, signature recipes, and local snacks: Lu cuisine, Chuan cuisine, Yu cuisine, Min cuisine, Su cuisine, Zhe cuisine, Xiang cuisine, Hui cuisine. There's nothing I can't do. Hot pot, barbecue, and noodles are all my specialties. Even Western food and desserts are a piece of cake for me. Rent was cheap back then. I spent 150 yuan renting a street-facing storefront and used the rest of the money to buy pots, pans, bowls, and ingredients. Yezi restaurant officially opened. The 1980s was an era where supply fell short of demand. As long as you have guts and are willing to work hard, it's impossible not to make money. My restaurant was packed from the moment it opened because it could cook signature dishes from all over the country. Many migrant workers in Shenzhen came to eat at my place, saying they could taste the flavor of home. I couldn't handle it all by myself, so I hired 2 waitresses. The 3 of us worked like spinning tops. After a month, though it was exhausting, we did the accounts. After deducting rent and the waitress's wages, I netted 2,000 yuan. What did 2,000 yuan mean in 1984? It was equivalent to 2 years' income for a working-class family. That's 5 years of a farmer's income. I cried when I looked at the ledger. These were tears of happiness. Women don't need men, because men will betray you and hurt you, but the renminbi never will. In the blink of an eye, it's been half a year in Shenzhen. The restaurant business is getting better and better, and my savings had reached 10,000, making me a proud 10,000 yuan household. In the 1980s, this was a title that everyone envied. It carried even more prestige than being a millionaire in later generations. My restaurant was also growing in scale. I had originally rented 1 storefront, but now I was renting 3. I now had 6 employees working under me. I wasn't a heartless boss. I was very generous with my staff. I paid them well above the average wage, with additional bonuses on top. As a result, every one of them was full of drive and enthusiasm. I was busy working at the restaurant that day when I suddenly heard a surprised voice. Yezi, I turned around and was surprised to see a fellow villager. It was Accountant Lu from our village. He had come to Shenzhen on business and happened to stop by my restaurant for lunch. Naturally, I was very warm toward a fellow villager. Not only did I add several hearty dishes, but I also covered the bill. Accountant Lu didn't pick up his chopsticks to eat. Instead, he looked anxious. Yi Zi, what are you doing here? You have no idea. The Meng family has been in an uproar looking for you for the past 6 months. Commander Meng is going crazy. 6 months ago, I boarded the train to Xincheng. The Meng family and the villagers all thought I was going to join the military and marry Meng Shuren later. When I was changing trains midway, I ran into Meng Shuren and Qi Rongrong. Meng Shuren thought so too. He sent me away again. He thought I had gone back to the village. No one knew I had come to Shenzhen. This created a double-sided information gap of misunderstanding. The villagers thought I was in the army, while Meng Shuren thought I was back in my hometown. The first few days were calm and uneventful. It wasn't until a few days later, when Meng Shuren hadn't received the safety call I was supposed to make to him, that he called the village to ask. Only then did he find out that I had never gone back. I had simply disappeared into thin air. Everyone started to panic. Meng Shuren took leave and searched everywhere for me. I didn't have a mobile phone back then. There were no surveillance cameras, and train tickets weren't linked to real names. Where could he find me? Meng Shuren searched for a full 2 months but still found nothing. Even the police station couldn't do anything, so everyone assumed something had happened to me. They thought I must have been killed on the way. Aunt Meng cried at home every day. Uncle Meng broke Meng Shuren's arm with a rolling pin. He called him an ungrateful wretch, blamed him for causing my death. The villagers also felt sorry for me, saying I was pitiful. So now, when Accountant Lu suddenly saw me running a restaurant in Shenzhen, looking so lively, he was utterly shocked. Yezi, come back with me. Everyone is waiting for you. I shook my head. I'm not going back. I'm doing just fine in Shenzhen. Uncle Lu, please go back and tell Uncle Meng and Aunt Meng that I'm doing well, and they don't need to worry about me. Accountant Lu slapped his thigh hard. Why are you so stubborn, girl? What about Commander Meng, not getting married? No. I shook my head firmly. I've had nothing to do with him for a long time. After Accountant Lu left, I continued working at the restaurant. The biggest inconvenience of this era, aside from the lack of mobile internet, was the inability to make online payments. All transactions had to be done in cash. Every night after finishing work, I had to carefully tally up the cash I had received. The next day at noon, I would go to the bank to deposit the money. I dared not keep too much cash on me, to avoid attracting envy, but with my restaurant business doing so well, it was impossible not to draw attention. That night, it rained, and the sky outside was especially dark and gloomy. I rented a single-story house in the alley behind the restaurant. Just as I was about to lock the restaurant door and head back to rest, I was shoved hard by an immense force. I was pushed back. Inside again, a sleazy-looking man sneered as he walked into the room. He was there to rob the place. There were too many people in Deep City. Some genuinely came to start businesses and get rich, while others were there to take the crooked path. He didn't just come to rob me. He also had malicious intentions toward me. This little lady's pretty cute, huh? The thug pinned me down on the table, about to do something beastly. I bit down hard on the thug's hand. He jumped up, clutching his bleeding hand, and cursed angrily. Are you a dog or what? The thug tried to assault me again. I rushed into the kitchen and grabbed a cleaver. Don't come any closer, or I'll fight you to the death. The thug wasn't scared off by me. Instead, it only stirred up his viciousness. Damn it, I don't believe I can't handle a little bitch like you. He charged at me again. I would rather die than be defiled. I made up my mind. If I really couldn't escape, I would kill myself. At the critical moment, freeze. A man in military uniform burst in. This military uniform exudes an innate sense of authority, and the thugs were so terrified that they fled in panic. It was Meng Shuren who arrived. Although one of his arms was in a sling, clearly his fracture hadn't fully healed yet, but with just his other hand, he easily subdued the thugs. The police station came and took them away. It turned out he was a fugitive. After everything was settled, Meng Shuren looked at me with a complicated expression. Yi Tan, you've made me search so hard for you. Meng Shuren came after hearing the news from Accountant Lu. Come back with me. Everyone at home is waiting for you. I'll marry you. I've already submitted a report to the division commander about your accompanying me to the military base. Stop making a scene. I've been bearing enough complaints during the 6 months you've been gone. His handsome face was etched with exhaustion. Thank goodness nothing happened to you. Otherwise, I would never forgive myself for the rest of my life. Hearing that he was willing to marry me, I felt no excitement or happiness at all, because to me, this is already a trivial matter. Captain Meng, thank you for saving me, but you should go back. I won't marry you. I made that very clear to you before. Meng Shuren was somewhat furious and embarrassed. Yi Tan, don't push your luck. I've already compromised. What more do you want? Making such a scene won't do you any good, aren't you just jealous of? Chi Rongrong, we are innocent, we are just soulmates. I shook my head firmly. I'm not making a scene, I just don't want to marry you. Whether you want to marry Chi Rongrong or someone else, it has nothing to do with me. If you're worried about how to explain things to Uncle Meng and Aunt Meng when you get back, I'll write you a letter saying it's because I don't want to marry you, so they won't pressure you anymore. Hearing me say this, for the first time in 2 lifetimes combined, Meng sure and truly believed that I no longer loved him. I no longer wanted to be his wife. His face showed shock, confusion, and relief. I could understand all of that. He had finally let go of this heavy burden that was me. But what about the loss and reluctance? Are you serious? Serious? I had already taken out the letter paper to write to Uncle Meng and Aunt Meng. Yitan, actually, I don't have no feelings for you at all. It's just that everyone says I owe you. Well, I feel pressured. I felt like marrying you was just completing a task. That's why I rebelled, and didn't want to, he stammered, trying to explain. Don't say any more. None of this matters now. I gave the letter to Meng Shuren, Regimental Commander Meng. From now on we are both free. After Meng Shuren left, my life went on. Before I knew it, the end of the year had arrived. And it was time for me to return to my hometown to pay respects at my parents' graves. After struggling in Shenzhen for 9 months, I had already earned 30,000 yuan. Returning to the village now would definitely be considered a triumphant homecoming. I was dressed in beautiful clothes. She wore a red down jacket on top and black high boots on the bottom. Not only had no one in the mainland worn such an outfit, but many had never even seen it before. Because Shenzhen is close to Hong Kong, the clothes and styles all came from there. Fashion trends there were years ahead of those in mainland cities, let alone in the countryside. The moment I entered the village, the whole place erupted. Dozens of children swarmed around me because I had brought a lot of New Year goods, including a whole big bag of white rabbit creamy candy. Everyone gets a share. The children were overjoyed. After my parents passed away, many kind villagers helped and looked after me. I can't forget these kindnesses. I went to their homes to give out New Year's red envelopes. Each red envelope contained 200 yuan. This was definitely a huge sum of money, and it caused a stir throughout the village again. Everyone envied me for making money outside and being successful. Of course, the red envelopes for Uncle Meng and Aunt Meng were separate. Each red envelope contained 1,000 yuan. After all, they raised me for 10 years even though I couldn't become their daughter-in-law. I can't forget this kindness. Uncle Meng absolutely refused to take the red envelopes, and eventually got upset. Girl, I'd be ashamed to take your money. Our Meng family has wronged you. Aunt Meng, on the other hand, burst into tears. Girl, my foolish son has no luck. I could only comfort them. It was the 29th day of the lunar year. Uncle Meng and Aunt Meng insisted on me staying at their home. Just then, 2 more people entered, bringing in the cold wind. Meng Shuren had brought Chi Rongrong back for the new year. Meng Shuren was stunned when he saw me. Chi Rongrong, on the other hand, glared at my down jacket and knee-high boots with a look of jealousy and hatred, as if her eyes were about to spit fire. They were back. And of course, I didn't want to stay at the Meng's place anymore, to avoid making everyone uncomfortable. But Aunt Meng absolutely refused to let me go. Yet she completely ignored Chi Rongrong, acting as if she didn't exist. In the end, I still stayed in my original room. Aunt Meng finally agreed to speak to Chi Rongrong, without a proper title. You're not allowed to sleep in the same room, or people will laugh. That evening, Aunt Meng had Chi Rongrong stay in Meng Shuren's room, but sent Meng Shuren to the storage shed. There was no stove inside, and it was very cold in winter. Aunt Meng didn't feel sorry for him either. She muttered under her breath, "Freeze to death, you heartless bastard." That night, sleep was very restless. First, in the middle of the night, Chi Rongrong needed to use the bathroom but absolutely refused to go to the outhouse, saying it was too dirty. In the end, Meng Shuren had to go borrow a chamber pot from somewhere. Naturally, Aunt Meng became even more dissatisfied with Chi Rongrong. That's how us country folks are. If you think it's too dirty, then don't come. Who invited you anyway? Chi Rongrong was so angry that tears welled up in her eyes. Meng Shuren couldn't hold it in any longer. Mom, that's enough, little rooster with a long tail. Once you marry a wife, you forget your mother. Aunt Meng pointed at Meng Shuren. If you marry her, don't call me your mother anymore. The commotion didn't die down until the wee hours of the morning. The next morning, I was about to go to the cemetery to pay respects at my parents' graves when I saw my bright red down jacket had been cut with scissors in over a dozen places. A big gash. No need to ask. It must have been Chi Rongrong. This woman, driven mad by jealousy and having taken Aunt Meng's anger, has vented all her resentment on me. I didn't mind much, but Uncle and Aunt Meng were furious. Even Meng Shuren lost his temper with Chi Rongrong for the first time. Rongrong, apologize. How could you do this? He looked At me apologetically again, Yi Tan, I'm sorry, how much is this dress? I'll pay for it. I shook my head, forget it, it's not worth much. I didn't mind, but Chi Rongrong started screaming hysterically, you country bumpkin, who do you think you are? What makes you think you deserve to wear such a nice dress? You're not worthy, ha, who knows where you got the money? I've heard that many shameless women go south to work as prostitutes. You must have sold your body too, slap, a crisp slap. Rang out, but this time it was Meng Shuren who struck. He pointed at Chi Rongrong, shut up, you hit me, I hate you. Chi Rongrong ran away crying, but Meng Shuren didn't chase after her. Instead, he looked at me with a conflicted expression, Yi, go ahead and chase after her. I'm fine, I'm going to visit the graves. I left the Meng family to visit my parents' graves. I left the village that very day. I no longer cared at all about whatever story Meng Shuren and Chi Rongrong had after the spring began. Meng Shuren came to Shenzhen again. He brought me a red down jacket of the same style. He said it was to make up for mine. I accepted it, but he refused to leave. Yi Tan, I was wrong before. Actually, I still think you're the best. Rongrong is just too much. I was wrong before. I didn't appreciate what I had. Poetry is only for occasional reading. It's not for everyday life. His eyes were full of guilt. Meng Shuren asked cautiously, can we still get married? It's all in the past. I cut him off. He walked away helplessly. After that, he wrote me a letter almost every month, but I never opened a single one. I just threw them all into the stove and burned them. Before I knew it, it was the end of the next year, and I had already opened 3 restaurants. I had over 30 employees under me. My annual income exceeded 100,000. When I returned to my hometown again, I didn't alert anyone. I just paid my respects at my parents' graves and left that same night. Because of me, some folks from my hometown also came to work in Shenzhen. I did my best to help them out. I heard that in '87, Meng Shuren still ended up marrying Chi Rongrong. Chi Rongrong forced it. Meng Shuren never wanted to get married. In the end, Chi Rongrong drugged him. Chi Rongrong made a scene at the division headquarters, and Meng Shuren had no choice but to marry her. However, the two often had conflicts and their relationship was not good. Chi Rongrong also didn't get along with her in-laws. In the end, Meng Shuren volunteered to be stationed at the border, and the two lived apart for a long time without having children. Then came the 1990s. I had become the chairman of a listed company. My business empire included not only catering but also tourism, film and television, and real estate. After all, I was reborn, so I naturally knew which industries were the trends. My personal wealth had exceeded 1 billion, but I never got married. Men are boring. My career is my lifelong partner. The next time I heard about Meng Shuren was in 1994. He was dismissed. The reason was that Chi Rongrong insisted on going abroad, complaining that earning money in China was too little and that she wanted to enjoy a better life overseas. Meng Shuren disagreed. By then, he was already the division chief of staff, in charge of a considerable amount of training funds. Chi Rongrong, in a fit of madness, stole the funds to go abroad. Although she was eventually caught, Chi Rongrong was imprisoned. Meng Shuren was also dismissed from the army for dereliction of duty. By then, Uncle Meng and Aunt Meng had passed away, so naturally I had no further contact with him. Another 20 years passed, and it was 2024. I was 60 years old, the same age as when I was reborn in my previous life. My net worth had reached 30 billion. I was still alone, but I had done a lot of charity work. That day, my assistant drove me to a charity awards gala. As we passed through the underground parking lot, I saw an old security guard dozing off. Inside, he was wearing a worn-out green uniform. Meng Shuren, long time no see. In the 5th year of being in love with Martin, I accepted his proposal, but the moment he put the ring on my finger, I transmigrated. I landed in the 7th year after our marriage. On this day, the mistress he kept outside barged into our home and took a fancy to my wedding ring at first sight. Martin, with a cold face, ordered me, Maria, take off the ring and give it to her. Meeting Martin's cold and unfamiliar gaze, I was certain that I had really traveled to the future. I forced a light laugh. Martin, so this is the future you promised me, cheating, keeping a mistress, and giving me the cold shoulder. Martin narrowed his eyes, looking as if he couldn't understand me. Maria, what are you going crazy about? Hearing him describe me as going crazy, I suddenly remembered what was said online. A woman goes through many stages in her life. A maiden, a young married woman, a bitter woman, a crazy woman, and finally, a silent one. I never expected that in just 7 years, I'd already reached the crazy stage, but the me right now was the Maria from 7 years ago. She was confident, bright, and would always pick herself up after a fall. It was just a ring. I took it off and held it out. When Martin reached for it, I deliberately let go. The plain ring hit the ground with a crisp sound and rolled far away. Oops, it fell. Sorry, my hand slipped, I said exaggeratedly, covering my mouth as I met Martin's annoyed eyes. Curled my lips and glanced at the woman standing beside Martin. I recognized her immediately. She was Wendy, a junior from Martin's department. When we were dating, Martin had mentioned her more than once, and every time, he made it clear that he couldn't stand stupid people. Now, though, he was pampering her. Martin was really two-faced. Aren't you fond of it? Hurry up and pick it up, I said, looking at Wendy. When a dog sees its owner throw a bone, doesn't it rush over quickly? What are you waiting for? Wendy's eyes flashed with hatred when she looked at me, but it quickly turned into a pitiful look. She looked at Martin. Martin, I didn't really want Maria's ring. I just thought that with her status, wearing a plain ring would make Martin lose face. I was going to give her my ring, but now I seem to have messed things up and made Maria unhappy. What should I do? Wendy took off the 10-carat diamond ring on her hand and handed it to me. Maria, look, I even had the ring ready. When I saw the ring, my eyes lit up. In the third year of dating Martin, to support his entrepreneurship, I set up a street stall selling handmade trinkets after work. One late night, he came to pick me up, passing by a jewelry store. Through the window, I was immediately drawn to the 10-carat ring on display. Martin leaned over. Do you like it? I nodded vigorously. I like it. He pulled me into his arms. Okay, I'll work hard. The first thing I'll do when I make money is to buy this ring for you, baby. I was happy but also a bit sober. It's too expensive to spend millions on a ring. Let's forget it. Martin held my face, looking serious. Baby, a few million for a ring is indeed expensive, but as long as you want it, I'll fight for it no matter what. At the age of just over 20, I was easily swayed by sweet words. I was so moved that tears streamed down my face. Martin, why are you so nice to me? He stared at me unblinkingly and said word by word, because you're worth it. We stood in front of the window, making a pinky promise in front of that 10-carat ring now. With Martin's net worth in the hundreds of millions, a few million for a ring was within easy reach, but the person he was giving it to was no longer me. I curled my lips and looked Wendy up and down. Secondhand, won't it have some infectious diseases? Wendy understood the hidden meaning almost instantly, and her eyes reddened seeing this. Martin snapped at me. Wendy meant well. You're so ungrateful. Apologize immediately. His forceful and commanding tone shattered the image of the gentle, loving Martin in my memory. I took a deep breath to suppress the sourness in my heart. Martin, are you out of your mind? You brought your mistress here to snatch my stuff in the middle of the night, and now you want me to apologize. What for? What? Are you two not going to make it through the night? Maria, how dare you talk to me like this? Martin's frown was so deep it could crush a fly. Before we got together, Martin knew I had a feisty personality and a sharp tongue. Judging from his reaction, the 7 years of marriage must have smoothed out all my edges. Martin seemed to have run out of patience. Clenching his jaw, he gave me an ultimatum. Maria, I'll give you one last chance. Apologize to Wendy right now, or I'll call the lawyer to discuss our divorce. After saying that, Martin looked at me confidently. He seemed certain that I'd rather bow my head and admit my mistake than divorce him. Just how spineless had I been in these 7 years? Fine, but it's late, so don't bother the lawyer. I'll write it, I said. Martin seemed not to have heard clearly. Maria, what did you say? Divorce. I agreed. I smiled at him. This time he heard me clearly, and his pupils shrank uncontrollably. His expression was changing, as if he knew me, yet also as if he didn't. I didn't give him a chance to back out or think it over. I found a pen and paper in the study and started drafting the divorce agreement right in front of him. Since I studied law and later worked as a lawyer, writing this sort of thing was a breeze. Fortunately, after so many years of marriage, Martin and I had no children. We only had the issue of property division. I wasn't sure how much Martin was worth now, but no matter what, I was entitled to half of his post-marital assets. 10 minutes later, I handed the drafted divorce agreement to Martin. Take a look, if there are no problems, sign it. Martin pinched the agreement and quickly scanned it, but what he asked wasn't about the agreement. Maria, what are you trying to pull? I didn't understand why he'd say that. I countered, it's just a divorce. What kind of tricks could there be? You really want a divorce? Martin looked at me searchingly, being repeatedly probed. I got impatient. If I'm serious or not, won't you know once you sign? Okay, fine. Martin finally acted promptly, picking up the pen and signing his name. Compared to his handwriting 7 years ago, his current writing was more forceful but also messier, just like the man himself now. Hard to understand. After he signed, I wrote my name too, stroke by stroke, putting an end to our 7-year marriage. Okay, this house is mine now. You two can leave. After Martin took Wendy away, I finally had time to look around this multi-million-dollar villa. The house was full of luxury goods and custom-made items. Martin had kept his Promise, he really did make me live a wealthy life in this big villa, but he was no longer here. I couldn't figure out how a man who once doted on me could change so completely after marriage. It would be a lie to say I wasn't hurt. A sharp pain stabbed at my heart, so intense that I bent over. Then a metallic taste filled my throat. Before I knew it, I spat out a mouthful of blood, staining the expensive carpet red. So, it turned out that the one who wouldn't make it through the night was me. The next time I saw Martin was in the hospital. He was accompanying Wendy for an examination, and luckily, I was sent to the hospital by a kind passerby. I learned from the doctor that I was in the late stages of cancer and didn't have many days left. I was told to try to stay in a good mood. We ran into each other in the hospital corridor. Martin didn't seem surprised to see me at all. As expected, he said, "Maria, are you stalking me?" I gave him a look that said he was crazy and didn't want to waste a word on him, just walked away. But he suddenly reached out and grabbed me. "Maria, I gave you chances. It was you who insisted on divorce. Now you want me to forgive you. It's not that easy." I shook off his hand. "Martin, what are you dreaming about? Which ear of yours heard me say I regret it?" Martin frowned slightly. "Aren't you here to find me?" "No." Hearing my answer, the confidence in Martin's eyes cracked a bit, but he seemed to be good at making assumptions. Thinking that I should revolve around him, in a tone that seemed to see through me, he said, "Humph, Maria, do you think I'll believe you? Don't forget, back then, you were even willing to die rather than." Hearing this, my eyebrows twitched involuntarily. What on earth had happened in these 7 years that could make me? I pushed down the countless questions in my heart and looked at Martin. "Martin, there's no denying that we were once in love. I loved you so much that I thought I couldn't live without you. But Martin, people grow, no one will stay where they are and wait. You've changed, and so have I. Divorcing you is the smartest decision I've ever made. I won't regret it, and I can't regret it. You don't need to test me over and over again, unless it's you who regrets." Martin pursed his lips. After a brief silence, he suddenly chuckled. "How could I? I'd said what I needed to say." I didn't care how he justified things to himself and just walked away, but unexpectedly, right after getting rid of Martin, I ran into Wendy. She stood there as if she'd been waiting for me. As soon as she saw me, she stroked her belly. "Maria, I'm pregnant." "It's Martin's." Another useless thing to say. I didn't want to pay attention to her. "Maria, if the baby in your belly back then had been born, it would be 3 years old by now. What a pity, but you probably don't know yet. Martin left you on the overpass because he got a call from me." I whipped my head around to look at Wendy. "What did you say?" Wendy covered her mouth in feigned surprise. "Oh, Maria, you really didn't know." I didn't know what had actually happened back then, but that didn't slow me down from slapping this bitch. I quickly stepped forward and gave Wendy 2 hard slaps. When Martin arrived and saw this, he immediately grabbed my hand. "Maria, what are you doing?" This scumbag had the nerve to ask me. I broke free from his grip and slapped him across the face. "I'm hitting her, not you. Don't be so nosy." Martin and I had had many quarrels and conflicts over the years, but it had never come to blows. This slap on Martin's face made his complexion turn livid, and he looked at me as if he wanted to devour me. Wendy jumped out excitedly. "Maria, you're too much. How could you hit Martin? And on his face too? If the media catches this and posts it online, how will Martin manage the company?" I quickly came to my senses. "None of my business, you." In front of Martin, Wendy didn't dare to confront me directly. She turned to Martin with red eyes and complained, "Martin, it's all my fault. I just wanted to share the news of my pregnancy with Maria, but I don't know which sentence upset her, and she came over to hit me, and even got you involved." Martin was silent for a moment after listening to Wendy. Strangely, this time, he didn't stand up for Wendy and come after me. Instead, he said to Wendy, "You're pregnant. Stop crying, let's go, I'll take you home." After saying that, Martin didn't even look at me again and left with Wendy. I watched Martin's back, recalling what Wendy had just said. Could the miscarriage really have something to do with Martin? Was his reaction just now because he felt guilty? As soon as I left the hospital, the pain hit me. I'd only walked a few steps before I was sweating from the pain. Gritting my teeth, I made it to the convenience store across the street. I bought a bottle of mineral water to take my painkillers. "Little girl, taking medicine with cold water, it won't work. Here, let me get you a cup of hot water." The aunt in the store stopped me immediately when she saw what I was doing. She filled a disposable cup with hot water and handed it to me. I first looked at the steaming water in front of me, then at the kind face of the aunt. For some reason, my eyes started to swell and ache uncontrollably. I didn't cry when I found out about Martin's affair. I didn't cry when I divorced Martin. I didn't cry when I learned I was dying, but now, in front of a stranger, I couldn't Hold back my tears, so useless. The aunt looked at my red eyes and didn't laugh at me. Drink up, don't let it get cold. After taking the medicine, the pain eased a bit. Thank you, I said. The aunt waved her hand. You're welcome. Go home early and get a good sleep. I sniffed my sore nose and nodded. Okay, but as soon as I turned around, I faced a bitter truth. I didn't have a home 7 years ago, and I still didn't have one now. After hesitating for a long time, I still got in the car and followed the route from my memory. After a 4-hour cross-provincial drive, I finally arrived at the entrance of the neighborhood in my memory. I sat in the car, looking at the big characters, happiness for all neighborhood hanging at the entrance. Memories flashed back to the summer when I was 18. That was my first long trip. I took a bus from my hometown town, then a train from the county seat. After a day and a night, I found this place according to the address on the note. When I got here, all my courage vanished. I carried my mended school bag, as timid as a newly hatched chick. I didn't dare to take a step forward or backward until I spotted a familiar yet strange figure among the people coming and going. I licked my dry lips and opened my mouth. Mom, my voice was so low that only I could hear it. My mom's figure, who didn't even turn her head, was about to disappear. Mom. I got anxious and shouted out loud, trying to hold on to her. All the mothers around instinctively looked at me. My mom was no exception. She turned around. The moment our eyes met, I forced a big grin. Her eyes changed from strange to familiar, then to surprised, and finally to impatient. She quickly walked up to me, didn't say a word, and dragged me out forcefully. She only stopped when there was no one around. She turned around and asked loudly, "Why are you here? Who told you to come?" I stared blankly at my mom's face. I remembered she wasn't like this before. She had dimples when she smiled. Was it your dad? Did he tell you to come, to ask me for money? I just zoned out for a moment, and Mom started shaking me vigorously. Say something, say it. Her hysterical voice seemed to pierce my eardrums. No, I came on my own. Hearing that no one had sent me, Mom regained some sanity, but she was still highly vigilant. You came on your own. What do you want? I'm here. Before I could finish, Mom interrupted me. I'm telling you, I divorced your dad. And you were awarded to him. I left the marriage with nothing. I have no obligation to support you. If he doesn't support you, you can sue him in court. Her cold words were like a sharp sword, stabbing a big hole in my heart without hesitation. It was bloody, but I couldn't feel the pain for a moment. You're overthinking. I'm just traveling with my classmates. I just happened to pass by this neighborhood. I pursed my lips and straightened my back, letting Mom's suspicious eyes scan my face. She was guessing whether I was sent by my dad. After a while, Mom spoke again, this time with a softer tone. Maria, don't blame Mom for being heartless. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have married your dad. I finally got out of that hellhole and had a peaceful life, so don't come to me anymore. Okay, I opened my mouth. Okay, my voice was still low, but Mom heard it clearly. She smiled. Finally, she smiled like the way I remembered, with 2 dimples at the corners of her mouth. Here, take this 50 yuan and buy something to eat with your classmates. She dug into her pocket, took out a wrinkled banknote, and stuffed it into my palm forcefully. Then she walked away without looking back. Watching her leave, I murmured the real reason I came. Mom, I got into college. Tracy, the pork ribs are on sale today. Do you want to buy some? Sure. Do you have corn? My Tracy is on school break today. I'll make her corn and pork rib soup. Through the car window, I saw that long-lost figure again. Yes, by the way, which grade is your Tracy in this year? She's in senior 3 already. After the new year, she'll be preparing for the college entrance examination. When talking about her Tracy, Mom's face was full of happiness and pride. Watching her carefully pick vegetables at the stall, I curled my lips. So, she could be a good mom too. When she unconsciously turned her head towards me, I stepped on the gas and left without looking back. On the way back to City A, I got the news of a university reunion. I wasn't that interested at first, but I was also curious about what everyone was like now. On the day of the reunion, not long after I entered the private room, Martin arrived, and he brought Wendy with him. The room, which was bustling just a moment ago, fell silent instantly. A few seconds later, someone asked me in a low voice, Maria, what's going on with you and Martin? He's your husband, isn't he? Why did he bring another woman? I explained. We got divorced. You two got divorced. Ah, when did that happen? I was calm. Just recently. Seeing that I didn't want to talk about it, no one asked further. Besides, with Martin's current identity and status, they didn't dare to pry. After sighing, everyone tacitly maintained a fake liveliness. Only Sophia, who was close to me in university, came to my side. I never thought that Martin, a model husband in everyone's eyes, would cheat. Looking back, It was wise of you to abort the child, otherwise, for the sake of a child, you'd have suffered so much in this marriage. I was biting into a pastry when I heard this and almost choked. Sophia quickly brought me a glass of water to drink. After catching my breath, I grabbed her hand and asked, "What did you say?" "I aborted the child myself." Sophia looked at me in surprise. "Yes, I even went with you at that time, so, the miscarriage wasn't an accident, it was something I did myself. What's wrong?" Sophia looked at me in confusion. I couldn't tell Sophia that I was Maria from 7 years ago. The events of these 7 years were a blank to me. Nothing. I just had a little too much to drink. My memory is a bit fuzzy. I made up an excuse casually. "Maria, don't be too sad. A scumbag like Martin isn't worth your sorrow. If I'd known he was like this, I wouldn't have let you marry him." Sophia was indignant for me. She didn't hold back when cursing Martin, until Martin showed up in front of us with a glass of red wine. Now, as a man in power, Martin exuded an intimidating aura of a strong man. Sophia immediately shut up when she saw him. "Maria, I remembered I have some work to do. I'll leave you for now." I understood. After all, her current job was related to Martin's company. Okay, seeing me and Martin standing together, the others also moved away a bit. After not seeing each other for a few days, Martin seemed to have forgotten our unhappiness. He stared at me for a while and said, "You've lost weight. Haven't you been eating well?" I wasn't the kind of person who would forget the pain after a little sweetness. "Martin, look clearly. I'm not Wendy. Don't act like a jerk in front of me." I wanted to leave, but Martin blocked my way. "Maria, can't you talk properly?" "Martin, have you just met me today? Or do you think the slap last time wasn't enough and you need another one?" Martin was successfully enraged and clenched his fists. I stared back at him fearlessly. Eventually, he loosened his fists. "Maria, is it all my fault that we've come to this? Are you completely blameless?" Interesting. Here comes the typical speech of a scumbag. Seeing that I didn't answer, Martin started listing my faults and lack of charm in the 7-year marriage. For example, my clothes weren't stylish enough. For example, I couldn't satisfy his special preferences in bed. And for example, I was too strict about his staying out all night. Martin stared at me blankly, opened his mouth, but couldn't say a word. I knew what he meant. Does this sound familiar? In Martin's confused eyes, I clicked on a video on my phone. The video was a candid shot from outside the private room. Inside the room, a few people were chatting. "Martin, you're the one who got married the earliest and has been married the longest among us. Share your feelings." A casual answer followed. Martin sat on the sofa, with the thin light above his head. A smoke ring was slowly exhaled. "You guys don't know. Sometimes I also think that if Maria hadn't agreed to marry me back then, maybe I could have loved her for a lifetime." As the words fell, he stretched out his long arm, and a pure and lovely girl landed in his arms. The video ended there in Martin's extremely shocked eyes. I put away my phone, surprised. "Your words back then were overheard by me. I found this video on the computer of the 7 years later Maria some time ago. Now that I think about it, the beginning of a deteriorating marriage is a change of heart. Maria, I can explain this." "Don't," I interrupted him. "Now that I think about it, being loved by someone like you for a lifetime is really disgusting." After saying that, I left without looking back, but like a ghost, I ran into Wendy at the corner again. As soon as she saw me, she splashed the glass of water in her hand onto my face. "Maria, you slut, you're divorced from Martin, yet you're still pestering him." I closed my eyes and felt it. Wendy still had a bit of a conscience. It was cold water. I wiped the water droplets off my face. "Wendy, apologize to me right now." "I won't." I originally thought that since Wendy was pregnant, hitting her would be a sin, but she was really asking for it. "Wendy, you asked for this." I resolutely slapped her across the face. "Ah!" Wendy screeched like a pig and lunged at me. Her scream didn't attract Martin but did draw the classmates and staff around. And just like that, Wendy and I were pulling each other's hair and fighting. "Blood, there's blood," someone suddenly shouted. And everyone instinctively stepped back. Wendy's first reaction was to protect her belly. My baby, my baby." Martin finally arrived, and everyone made way for him. Wendy was like a drowning man seeing a straw. "Martin, I'm bleeding. It's our baby. Save our baby quickly." Martin nervously looked at Wendy's lower body, frowning in confusion. Then I turned my head. The moment he saw me, Martin's face was stunned, even with a bit of comical horror. And he couldn't say a word for a long while, and I felt a rush of heat gushing out of my nose. I raised my hand to wipe it. It was blood. I wiped again, still blood. It just wouldn't stop. Then, I started spitting blood from my mouth. Uncontrollably, sharp screams broke out all around, but somehow, I felt those noises gradually fading away. All that was left was a deep, deep silence at the moment when I was about to fall to the ground with my eyes closed. Martin seemed to break free from a spell and rushed towards me like a madman, shouting, "Maria, Maria!" When I woke up again, I was in the hospital. Martin was sitting beside the hospital bed, his eyes red. "You have cancer, why didn't you tell me?" He was holding my test report in his hand. The doctor stood at the head of the bed and said, "Miss, it's such a big thing, why didn't you tell your husband? Look at how worried he is. He's been here guarding you for a whole day and night without closing his eyes." "He's not my husband." My voice was weak, and the doctor didn't hear me. But Martin did, and his face sank. "At a time like this, can you stop being so difficult? Get out." Martin didn't move an inch. Now I didn't even have the strength to turn over, so I just closed my eyes. "Maria, don't call me that, it makes me sick." Martin fell silent, but I could still sense that his gaze was fixed on me. I ignored him and drifted off to sleep. I knew my time was running out. Even though I had been actively receiving treatment, I still couldn't stop the spread of the cancer. And Martin just refused to leave. When he saw me wake up, he was overjoyed. "Maria, you're awake. Are you hungry? I've already asked them to make porridge, it'll be ready soon." I interrupted him. "What are you doing here?" Martin was stunned. I want to take care of you," I sneered. "I don't need it, I'm weak, but I'm not completely immobile. Even if I really can't move, I'll hire a nurse myself." "Martin, you didn't think about taking care of me in the past 7 years, now that I'm dying. What are you pretending to be so affectionate for?" Hearing me say the word die, Martin panicked. He strode to my bedside and grabbed my hand. "No, you won't, Maria, you won't die. I've already invited the best cancer experts in the world, they will definitely cure you. You won't die. Don't say such things anymore." In the end, his voice even carried a bit of a sob. I shouted "get out" while trying to push him away, but I really had no strength. I couldn't push him at all. And he just wouldn't leave. Whenever he was in the ward, I wouldn't say a word. Martin was afraid that I was in a bad mood, so he simply stayed at the door of the ward. He found the best experts to treat me and hired special people to make a diet plan for me, but my body was still getting weaker day by day after chemotherapy. I was just about to go back to the ward when I found Wendy had come in the ward. She was arguing with Martin. "Brother Pay, are you really going to disregard everything for Maria? You're the father of my child. What about me and the baby if you do this?" I hadn't seen her for a while, and her belly was already slightly bulging. Martin shook off her hand, looking impatient. "Didn't I tell you long ago to get rid of the baby?" Wendy couldn't believe it. "Brother Pay, what are you talking about? This is our baby. How could I possibly get rid of it?" "I know. Is it because Maria doesn't want me to have it? That bitch can't have a baby herself. So why should she make me have an abortion?" As soon as Wendy finished speaking, Martin raised his hand and slapped her across the face with a smack. His eyes were full of disgust as he almost furiously grabbed Wendy by the throat. "Watch your mouth." At this point, Wendy just decided to go all out. Her face was flushed as she struggled under Martin's grip. "Am I wrong? Didn't her baby fail to be born? I just sent him some of our photos. Who knew she was so fragile that she went and had an abortion herself? She deserved it. She shouldn't have tried to steal you from me." Martin couldn't believe it. "It was you. So what if it was me?" Martin froze on the spot. The hand that was gripping Wendy slowly loosened. Wendy coughed a few times and knelt on the ground. Wendy thought he had come to his senses. After a while, she put on a gentle face. "Brother Pay, don't be sad. I did it all because I love you. Although Maria lost her baby, I'm now pregnant with yours. When Maria dies and my baby is born, our family of 3 can be together every day." Martin didn't say a word. After a long while, he raised his head, his eyes full of hatred for Wendy. "What makes you think I'll let you have my baby?" As soon as he finished speaking, several bodyguards surrounded Wendy. She panicked. "What are you doing?" I said. "Either you get rid of the baby yourself, or I'll have someone help you." "It seems you've chosen the latter," Wendy screamed. "Martin, how could you do this to me?" The bodyguards didn't give her a chance to shout. They carried her out of the ward. After they left, Martin finally saw me standing at the door of the ward. His eyes immediately softened. "Maria, you're back. How are you? Do you feel unwell anywhere?" I didn't even look at him and walked straight to the bed. Martin tried to hold my hand, but I shook him off. He was on the verge of crying. "Maria, I know I was wrong. Will you forgive me? Maria told me that you had an abortion because you didn't want to have my baby. I really didn't know she had contacted you before that. I really had nothing to do with her back then. I just saw her as a junior," I retorted. "So, for a junior, you left me on the overpass, perhaps because I had never been truly loved by my mother. I had thought countless times that if I ever had a child, I would do my best to be a loving mother, but after getting pregnant, I chose to have an abortion." I looked at Martin. At this moment, he suddenly seemed like a complete stranger to me. After a while, I pulled up the quilt. "Get out, don't ever show up in front of me again." Whether I live or die, I never want to meet Martin again, not in this life, nor the next. In recent days, almost every inch of my skin was screaming with pain. I couldn't eat, and I couldn't sleep. I quickly became weaker. Martin was still in the ward every day. He stayed by my side day and night, almost without sleeping. So annoying, I didn't have the strength to drive him away. So I just closed my eyes and pretended not to see him. Occasionally, when I woke up from my slumber, I would find Martin sitting beside the hospital bed, looking at me with tears in his eyes. What a pitiful display of so-called affection. But it just made me sick. Finally, one morning, Martin couldn't withstand the continuous phone calls and left the ward temporarily. To my surprise, all the pain in my body disappeared. I knew I was dying. My life had just begun. Why did I have to die like this? Clearly, those who had hurt me were still living well, perhaps because my wish was too strong. When I opened my eyes again, Martin from 7 years ago was holding my hand, about to put a ring on me. That simple ring was the very one that 7 years later, Martin brought Wendy to my door to ask for. I had traveled back in time. My body reacted faster than my mind. By the time I realized I had traveled back, my hand had already swung up and slapped Martin across the face with a smack. The jeers around us stopped instantly. Martin looked at me in shock. "Maria, what's wrong? Maria, how could you hit brother?" "Hey," the voices of Martin and Wendy rang out at the same time. I looked around and realized that Wendy was actually among the crowd at this proposal. She was looking at me with hatred in her eyes, as if I had hurt her most precious thing. I smiled. I took the ring from Martin's hand and stuffed it into Maria's hand. "Aren't you eager to have this ring? Here, take it. And Martin, you want it too, right? Anyway, I don't want it. Whoever likes to pick up trash can have it." Wendy's face turned bright red. "I didn't mean that," I laughed. "Didn't mean that. What did you send to Martin? Do you want me to show you the messages one by one?" According to what I found out 7 years later, Wendy had already started sending some very provocative messages to Martin at this time. Martin not only didn't refuse but even replied occasionally. Hearing my words, Wendy panicked immediately. She quickly turned to look at Martin, only to see that he was also shocked. "Maria, how did you know? Let me explain. It was just a misunderstanding," I said. "Get out, you two scumbags. Go play however you like. I'm done with you." I turned and left. Since God had given me a chance to see these people clearly, this time, I would never repeat the same mistakes. I decisively broke up with Martin. I blocked all his contact information and moved out of the shared apartment. Martin couldn't understand why I, who had been happily accepting his proposal 1 second, threw his ring at him and told him to get out the next. He thought I had seen his chat records with Wendy. He apologized over and over again, saying he had just been confused for a moment. He probably couldn't figure out why I had such a big reaction just because of a few chat messages without any physical contact. Friends who knew about this also came to persuade me. They said Martin hadn't done anything. It was all Wendy's fault. They also said I was being too fussy, holding on to such a trivial matter. Only I knew that from the moment he tacitly allowed Wendy to send him those explicit messages. A corner of his heart had already been occupied by Wendy. That corner would grow bigger and bigger, big enough for Wendy to have a firm foothold in his heart. And what I was doing now was just cutting my losses in time. So this time, I didn't listen to anyone. I stuck to my decision and would never get back together with Martin. Not only that, I also applied for a postgraduate program at a foreign university. I had had this opportunity before, but I didn't want to be in a long-distance relationship with Martin, so I gave it up. But this time, I wouldn't compromise for him. On the day the plane took off, I saw Martin at the airport. His eyes were red as he grabbed my wrist. He asked me over and over again, "Why?" I asked him back, "What were you thinking when Wendy sent you those messages?" Martin didn't say a word for a long while, and I broke free from his hand and walked towards the airport without looking back. Many years passed in a flash. Over these years, I cut off all contact with Martin, but I still couldn't help hearing news about him from former classmates. I heard that after breaking up with me, Martin was in a slump. His original plan was put on hold, and he and Wendy didn't end up together either. One afternoon, Martin woke up from his afternoon nap. Suddenly, he went mad, asking everyone he met, "Where's Maria?" After learning that I was studying for a postgraduate degree abroad, he was quiet for a long time. Finally, he cracked a smile. That very night, he jumped into the river with Wendy. Everyone said Martin had gone crazy. Only I knew that he must have remembered those 7 years. After I finished my postgraduate studies, I joined a large enterprise. With my capabilities, I quickly rose to the middle and senior management levels of the company. Over the years, I had been paying great attention to my physical health. I would have extremely detailed physical examinations every year. A few years later, during a checkup, a nodule was found in my lung, Without hesitation, I had it removed immediately. After the resection, it turned out to be minimally invasive lung cancer. Thanks to the early removal and years of exercise, I recovered well from the surgery, and there were no problems in the follow-up examinations. However, I still didn't dare to be careless and continued to focus on my physical health. Fortunately, nothing bad happened. After several years of re-examinations, no more illnesses were detected. In my 30s, I had become a young female entrepreneur. I wasn't married, didn't lack money, and didn't lack male companions either. At class reunions, I would occasionally hear people talking about my past. They felt sorry for me, saying that if I had married Martin back then, I would surely be very happy now. But I just smiled it off, because I knew that the only one who could bring me happiness was myself. Extra story of Martin. I admit that for a while, I was distracted in the relationship. There's no doubt that the person I loved was Maria. I had known her for many years. She was passionate and unrestrained, like a raging fire. Wendy, on the other hand, was a completely different woman. She was gentle and obedient, and most importantly, she would never reject me. I originally thought that I would never betray Maria in my life, but it just happened. That day, I had been drinking. I had originally planned to call Maria, but for some reason, the call went to Wendy. By the time I woke up, it was already too late. Wendy said that she didn't need a title, she just wanted to be by my side. She said she wouldn't tell Maria, and I readily agreed. Later, every time I quarreled with Maria, I would inexplicably think of her. She was different from Maria. She never quarreled with me. No matter what I said, she would say I was amazing. So gradually, I stopped going home and stayed with Wendy all day long. Even though I knew Maria was waiting for me at home that day, Maria looked at my phone and saw the chat records that I hadn't deleted completely. She got angry at once, and no matter how I apologized, she wouldn't accept it. Just then, Wendy called me. She said she had sprained her ankle at home and it hurt so much. From her tone, I could imagine her pitiful appearance with tears in her eyes. Compared with the angry Maria at the moment, she was so sensible. So without much hesitation, I left Maria alone on the overpass. I was such an idiot. I shouldn't have done that. I didn't know that Maria was pregnant. When I saw her again, she was in the hospital, having just had an abortion. Her face was pale, sweating coldly, but her eyes were so calm. Our baby is gone. I asked her why. She said, judging from the relationship between you and me now, even if the baby was born, it wouldn't be born into a loving family. A child growing up in such a family will be haunted by the shadow of their original family for their whole life. I knew what she meant because she was the one who had been overshadowed by her original family, but I still couldn't help being angry. It was our baby. How could she make the decision on her own? So I got even more involved with Wendy. I stayed out all night and took Wendy to various public places. I even bought a house for Wendy outside. Whenever I didn't want to go home, I would stay there with her. Wendy said that it was our home, but I just wanted to laugh. Until that moment, I clearly realized that only when I was with Maria could it be called a home. I went back to find Maria, but she kicked me out, telling me to go wherever I liked. Feeling irritated, I simply took Wendy to buy a ring. A 10-carat diamond ring was what Maria used to like the most. The more I thought about Maria, the more annoyed I got. So when Wendy suggested showing it to Maria, I didn't refuse. She had driven me out, right? I wanted to show her that it was just a 10-carat ring. I could buy as many as I wanted and give them to whoever I wanted. But I never expected that Maria had changed. She seemed to have suddenly turned back into the passionate and unrestrained Maria from 7 years ago. She didn't care about the diamond ring, Wendy, or even me. Not only that, she wanted to divorce me. Divorce? Was I going to die without her? After the divorce, I hadn't seen her for a long time. When we met again, I was accompanying Wendy for a prenatal checkup. Looking at the pregnant Wendy, I couldn't help but think of the baby that Maria had aborted. If that baby was still here, it should be almost 3 years old by now. What I didn't expect was that Maria was also in the hospital. I thought she had come after me, but I was completely wrong. I never thought that she had cancer. After learning this news, my mind went blank. The doctor told me after the examination that it was terminal cancer. She had already received a lot of treatment before I found out. At first, I was angry. She was so sick. Why did she hide it from me? But then, thinking about what I had done over the years, I suddenly realized why she refused to rely on me. I hadn't fulfilled my duty as a husband. Then came the fear. I had never thought that I would lose Maria. It sounds ridiculous, but at that moment, I suddenly realized that I loved her. I had loved her since the first time I met her over a decade ago. Even when I was with Wendy, I loved her. But my love for her had been buried in those 7 years, and even more so in my desire for Wendy. I was such an idiot. I also knew that Maria didn't love me anymore. When she looked at me, There was nothing in her eyes except disgust, not even hatred. I found the best cancer experts overnight, whether it cost money or time, as long as it could cure Maria. I was willing to give everything. I knew that she had never given up the hope of living, but no matter how actively she cooperated with the treatment, she still withered away bit by bit, like a fading flower. Maria died. After she died, I suddenly felt that everything was meaningless. Lover, child, I had nothing. I forced Wendy to have an abortion and was tricked by my rivals, losing all my money in my company. I became a penniless pauper later.